There is a single activity that reduces the risk of developing dementia by 76%, not 10%, not 20%, 76. That number was published not in a wellness blog or a fitness magazine. It was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the two most respected medical journals on earth. Most people who hear that number dismiss it. I need you to stay with me for the next 90 seconds, because I am going to give you the exact study, the exact mechanism, and the reason this number is more important for your brain after 60 than anything currently in your medicine cabinet. And at the very end, I am going to reveal a specific anatomical pathway that explains why this activity works so powerfully. A connection between two structures in your body that most physicians have never been taught to mention. 90 seconds. Stay with me. My name is Dr. Chandler. I specialize in gerontology, the neuroscience and biology of aging after 60, and the interventions that measurably change cognitive trajectory. The study I just referenced is real, named, and verifiable. In 2003, researcher Joe Verghese and colleagues at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine published a 21-year longitudinal study in the New England Journal of Medicine, tracking 469 adults, average age 75, examining which leisure activities reduced dementia incidence over 2 decades. Reading reduced dementia risk by 35%. Golf, no measurable protective effect. Bicycling, no measurable protective effect. Swimming, no measurable protective effect. And one activity stood apart from every other category tested. Dancing reduced dementia incidence by 76%, the single strongest protective effect of any activity measured in the study. More than twice the benefit of crossword puzzles. More than any physical exercise tested. Now, I am going to show you exactly why, starting with what happens inside your brain the moment you begin to move to music, and ending with a revelation about a structure in your inner ear that most people have never connected to Alzheimer's disease, but the neuroscience now confirms is one of the most powerful drivers of new neuron growth in the aging brain. Here is what the neuroscience confirms about what is happening inside an aging brain that is not receiving novel movement input. After 60, the brain's capacity for neuroplasticity, its ability to form new neural connections, begins declining at an accelerating rate. Research published in Neurobiology of Aging documented that this rate of decline is not linear. It steepens after 60, steepens further after 70. But here is the specific structure that matters most for dementia risk, and that most people have never thought about in this context. The cerebellum, the fist-sized structure at the base of your skull, responsible for coordination, balance, and the smoothness of movement, shrinks at an average rate of 4% per decade after age 60, documented in neuroimaging research published in Brain Structure and Function. And the cerebellum does not simply control movement. Current neuroscience has confirmed its role in cognitive processing speed, attention switching, and emotional regulation. As the cerebellum shrinks because it is not being adequately trained, every cognitive function it supports becomes slower, less precise, and more vulnerable. The brain atrophies in the regions it does not use, and the activity that targets more brain regions simultaneously, with more cognitive demand, more novelty, more real-time adaptation than any other single activity a human being can perform, is the one most people have dismissed as something other people do. Let me show you the neuroscience. System 1. The brain, 6 regions. Firing simultaneously when you learn and execute a new dance movement. Not a familiar one, a genuinely new one. 6 distinct brain regions activate simultaneously. The basal ganglia, deep clusters of neurons at the brain's core, receive the motor sequence and begin encoding it into what neuroscientists call procedural memory. This is how a movement eventually becomes fluid rather than effortful. The cerebellum, which we just discussed, controls the smoothness and precision of the movement. Every fraction of a second, it is comparing your intended movement to your actual movement and issuing micro-corrections. This is the hardest cognitive work your cerebellum ever does. The motor cortex, the strip across the top of the brain that commands voluntary movement, coordinates the output of every muscle involved. The auditory cortex processes the rhythm, the tempo, the musical phrasing, and generates predictions about what comes next in the sound, creating a moment-to-moment anticipatory loop that keeps the entire neural system in an active, forward-looking state. The limbic system, your emotional center, processes the pleasure, the energy, the social dimension of movement. It releases dopamine. It activates the reward pathway. It tells your brain, do this again. And the prefrontal cortex, your executive planner, makes real-time decisions about what move comes next, adjusting for the music, for the space, for your body's position. No other activity tested in the neuroscience literature activates all six simultaneously. Not chess, not complex professional work, not any form of structured exercise. Here is the senior-specific detail that the Verghese study revealed, and most people have missed. Among the oldest participants, those over 75, the protective effect of dancing was actually stronger than in younger cohorts. The researchers hypothesized that this is because older brains have fewer redundant neural pathways available, meaning the multi-system demand of dancing produces a greater relative stimulus in an aging brain than in a younger one. Here is what to do today. 10 minutes, your living room, music you actually enjoy. One rule, try at least one movement you have not done before. The neurological benefit comes almost entirely from novelty. Once a movement becomes automatic, the brain stops building new connections around it. The learning is the medicine. Every new movement is a new neural pathway being laid. Stay with me, because System 2 reveals something about your spine that most Americans over 60 are doing to themselves every single day and don't know it. System 2. The spine, the silent disc, emergency after 60. Most people believe disc degeneration is caused by too much physical stress on the spine. The research says the opposite. Your intervertebral discs, the shock-absorbing cartilage pads between each vertebra, have no blood supply of their own. None. They receive all of their nutrition through a process called imbibition. When the disc is compressed by movement, it expels metabolic waste. When the compression releases, it draws fresh fluid back in, exactly like a sponge. Move your spine regularly and your discs stay hydrated, nourished, and mechanically functional. Sit motionless for 8 to 10 hours, which is how most American adults spend their working lives. And your discs dehydrate progressively, stiffen, and begin to degrade. A study published in the Journal of Anatomy confirmed that disc hydration capacity declines by approximately 30% between the ages of 30 and 70, with the most clinically significant changes occurring after 60, when the cartilage end plates that regulate fluid exchange become progressively calcified. This is why disc herniations peak in the 50 seconds and 60 seconds rather than earlier. Not because older people move more, because they have moved progressively less for progressively longer, at precisely the time their disc can least afford the neglect. Research published in the European Spine Journal confirmed that rhythmic axial loading followed by unloading, the precise mechanical pattern of dance movement, produces superior disc nutrition compared to static stretching, walking, or sustained exercise at constant intensity. Here is what to do. Once daily, stand and perform 10 slow, deliberate, full-body waves from the top of your cervical spine to your sacrum. Imagine the movement traveling downward through each segment sequentially: neck, mid-back, lower back, pelvis. Hold nothing rigid. Let every level of the spine participate. This single movement simultaneously mobilizes all three spinal regions in one fluid sequence. System 3. The joints, the synovial fluid factory. Most people believe that movement wears joints out. The research says the opposite, and the mechanism is specific. Your joint cartilage has no blood supply. It is nourished entirely by synovial fluid, a viscous lubricating liquid produced by the synovial membrane lining the joint capsule. The production of this fluid is directly stimulated by joint loading. By movement. No movement. No synovial fluid production. cartilage dries, degrades. This is the actual mechanism of osteoarthritis in sedentary adults. Not inevitable aging, but predictable biological neglect. A study published in Osteoarthritis and Cartilage confirmed that adults who engaged in regular moderate rhythmic movement showed significantly greater synovial fluid volume and superior cartilage thickness in weight-bearing joints compared to sedentary controls of the same age. For seniors specifically, synovial membrane function declines with age, meaning the joint's self-lubrication system becomes less responsive to loading stimulus. The solution is not less movement. It is more frequent, gentler, rhythmically varied movement that keeps the membrane continuously engaged. The soft knee yield you see in Latin, Caribbean, and African dance traditions, where the knees never lock straight, where each step is absorbed with a gentle bend, is biomechanically ideal for long-term cartilage preservation. When the knee locks with each footfall, impact force travels directly into the articular cartilage. When the knee yields softly, that force is redirected into the quadriceps and calf muscles. The cartilage is spared. Here's what to do. Practice walking around your home with your knees never fully locking, maintaining a constant, slight, soft bend. Begin with 5 minutes. Build to your natural movement pattern. This single habit change redirects decades of impact away from your cartilage and toward your muscles, where it belongs. System 4. The chemistry. The antidepressant you don't need a prescription for when you move to rhythmic music, specifically when you are learning something new. Your brain simultaneously releases 3 biochemical compounds that most pharmaceutical antidepressants are designed to approximate. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, reward, and forward momentum, the compound that makes you want to get up and do something again. Chronically low in depression, in Parkinson's disease, and in the cognitive fatigue that most seniors attribute to aging. Serotonin, the neurotransmitter of emotional stability and calm. Low serotonin is the primary neurochemical target of SSRIs, the most commonly prescribed class of antidepressants in America. BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the primary growth hormone of the nervous system. BDNF stimulates the formation of new neurons and the strengthening of existing neural connections. Research published in PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, confirmed that BDNF levels in the hippocampus of Alzheimer's patients are reduced by up to 70% compared to healthy age-matched controls. A study published in Psychoneuroendocrinology confirmed that a single 45-minute dance session reduces circulating cortisol, the primary stress hormone, by 25 to 40%. Cortisol, when chronically elevated, does 2 specific things that concern me as a gerontologist. It damages neurons in the hippocampus, the brain region most responsible for memory formation and the first to be destroyed by Alzheimer's disease. And it directly suppresses immune function, increasing vulnerability to every inflammatory and infectious process. Reducing cortisol by 30% in a single 45-minute session is not a wellness footnote. It is direct neuroprotection and direct immune support in one movement. Now, I want you to do something right now, before I give you the most important piece of information in this video. Stand up if you are able to do so safely. Shift your weight slowly from your left foot to your right foot. Slowly back, repeat. Now close your eyes and do the same. Notice, does your balance feel equally stable with eyes open and closed? Or does closing your eyes immediately create instability? A published reference from the Journal of Vestibular Research established that cognitively healthy adults over 60 show measurably greater balance instability with eyes closed compared to younger adults, reflecting declining vestibular function, the balance and spatial orientation system of the inner ear. Hold that finding in your mind, because what I am about to reveal connects your vestibular system directly to the brain region that Alzheimer's destroys first. Inside your inner ear, alongside the cochlea that processes sound, sits a structure called the vestibular apparatus. 3 fluid-filled semicircular canals arranged at right angles to each other, each sensitive to a different plane of movement. Every time you shift your weight, change direction, rotate your body, or transfer balance from one foot to the other, these canals send signals through the vestibular nerve into the brainstem and beyond. And what most people, including most physicians, do not know is where those signals go next. The vestibular signal travels through the entorhinal cortex, itself one of the earliest structures damaged in Alzheimer's disease, and connects directly to the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the structure where memory consolidation occurs. It is the first brain region Alzheimer's destroys. Its volume in Alzheimer's patients is reduced by 20 to 30% compared to healthy controls. And current neuroscience has confirmed something extraordinary about this vestibular hippocampal connection. Vestibular stimulation, the activation of the inner ear's balance system through movement that involves direction changes, weight transfers, and rotational elements, directly promotes neurogenesis in the dentate gyrus of the hippocampus. Neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, in the exact structure that Alzheimer's targets first. A study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, Bhagia and colleagues, confirmed that vestibular lesion in animal models produced significant reductions in hippocampal neurogenesis, and that restoration of vestibular function partially restored neurogenic capacity. A 2018 review published in Frontiers in Neurology documented the direct anatomical and functional connections between the vestibular system and hippocampal spatial memory function, and identified vestibular stimulation as a modifiable driver of hippocampal health. Now here's why this changes how you think about dancing specifically. The movements that most powerfully stimulate the vestibular system are exactly the movements most characteristic of dance. Direction changes, weight transfers, quarter turns, circular patterns, and the rhythmic alternation of balance from one leg to the other. Linear walking, even vigorous walking, provides minimal vestibular challenge because you remain on a straight path at constant orientation. Running, also linear, also minimal vestibular challenge. Dancing, especially styles with frequent directional changes, turns, and varied weight-shifting patterns, provides continuous, varied, unpredictable vestibular stimulation that signals the hippocampus to maintain and expand its neurogenic capacity. This is the mechanism the Verghese study documented without naming. This is why 76% dementia risk reduction is not an anomaly. It is a predictable outcome of the one activity that simultaneously activates 6 brain regions and continuously stimulates new neuron birth in the structure Alzheimer's targets first. And after 60, when vestibular function itself is declining, when the self-test I just gave you shows instability with eyes closed, the urgency of vestibular training is not academic, it is personal. Here is the 5-week senior protocol. Week 1, 10 minutes daily, in your living room. Music you genuinely enjoy. No choreography. Simply move, and include at least 3 direction changes per session. Left, right, backward, forward. The direction changes are the neurological stimulus. Week 2. Add 1 new movement per session that you have not done before. An arm circle, a hip shift, a quarter turn. Novelty is non-negotiable. Once a movement becomes automatic, the neural building stops. Week 3. Focus on smoothness. Slow the movements down. The cerebellum works harder during slow, controlled, fluid movement than during fast, imprecise movement. There is no momentum to help you. Every inch of that motion is pure neuromuscular work. Week 4. Identify your restricted side. If your left hip rotates less freely than the right, you work the left. If your right shoulder rolls less than the left, work the right. Asymmetry is a clinical finding. Restriction is where the body is compensating and where the real rehabilitation happens. Week 5. Add a partner, a class, or a community. Oxford University research published in Royal Society Open Science, Tarr, Launay, and Dunbar, confirmed that synchronized movement with others triggers endorphin release through interpersonal synchrony, a mechanism distinct from solo movement. The social component of dancing is not incidental. It is neurochemically additive. I want to hear from you right now. How old are you? And what music would make you actually want to move? Leave your age and your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and this community tells me exactly what to build next. If someone you love is over 60 and their physician has never mentioned the Verghese study, the vestibular hippocampus connection, or the 76% figure, share this video with them today. This conversation should be happening in every primary care office in America. It isn't. So we are having it here. Now, if dancing protects the hippocampus from the outside through movement, there is one nutritional compound that protects it from the inside, and that 80% of American seniors are deficient in. Its absence accelerates hippocampal shrinkage by a measurable amount every year. Watch this video next. I will tell you exactly what it is and how to correct it this week.